Hello and welcome to An Abundance of Books. We're here today to talk about everything that I read in April, and it went really well. March was a tough month for me. I had only read 4 things, but April we picked it back up into gear. I'm still feeling a little bit slumpy. Something's off, but I have 12 things to talk to you about. A huge stack of physical things, which is very unusual for me. All of these I read for videos, so I guess we'll go through those first. I did a video this month exploring the New York Public Library's Book of the Day system thing. It's a very fun video. You should go watch that if you haven't. But the results of it were I ended up reading The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrun. Look how tabbed up and marvelous she is. And this was a 5-star read for me. That video was so much fun, just seeing all of my thoughts in the moment of this. There's so much to talk about with this book. This is about a Bachelor ripoff show starring Charlie as the new lead. He's a young, cool tech modal, and they're trying to reinvent the franchise as bachelors want to do every couple of years, and his producer, Dev, and they have a little thing. So this was very fun for me to read as a member of Bachelor Nation, a begrudging member, as I assume all of us are. But this was just such a fun read. I would really recommend it. It's fun and there's lots of travel and all of the characters are really interesting. Charlie's assistant Parisa, I Remain, is one of my favorite characters. There's lots of fun nods if you're a part of Bachelor Nation, but even if not, I think that this is a really well-written book and really fun, and I would highly recommend it. The other book that I read for that video was Lemon by Kwon Yeo-Sun. This is a book translated from Korean about a woman who gets murdered and it's examining her death through the different people in her life. But the point of the book is not to solve the case, but examine grief or junk. So it's my bad for not reading that in the blurb prior to going in, but this just wasn't what I really wanted. I felt like there maybe were some cultural or translation issues that just kept me from really getting into the story. It's very short, but it follows multiple characters over multiple timelines. I just found it confusing and not what I wanted. I don't really have a lot to say about it. It is swiftly leaving my brain at this point. I give it 2 stars. That's it for that video. Then we can talk about this trio of goodness. Heartstopper by Alison Oseman, Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3 I all read in my Reading Heartstopper for the first time speedrunning Heartstopper video, in which I read all 3 of these graphic novels and review the first season of the TV show. I was not expecting to love this as much as I did. This has been getting tons of hype forever. It came out in 2018, so I've been hearing about it for literal years. It just didn't seem like it was going to be necessarily my thing. Graphic novels in general I have a hard time with. I'm gonna not hold 3 books because they're heavy, but I think the experience of reading these is just as valuable as the book itself, if that makes sense. Just being able to read it in one sitting, get a full and complete story that covers a couple months, have characters that you feel like you actually know even after spending such a short time with them. I was super impressed. The first book I'm giving 5 stars. This covers Nick and Charlie meeting at school and becoming friends. Book 2 follows Nick more than Charlie, trying to figure out some stuff about his sexuality. And this one also starts to feature the characters from the girls' school. They're incorporated in the TV show right away, so I'm getting stuff confused because I did everything so quick, but this one I also gave 5 stars. The only one I didn't is Book 3. The show also didn't go into Book 3. In this, the class take a trip to Paris. Giving it 4 stars, still really enjoyable. Just didn't have the same depth I feel like the other 2 had. Still really fun, and I really enjoyed getting to see all of the characters out of their natural habitat. It just didn't click with me as much for some reason. 4 stars, like still an excellent, still highly recommend, the whole shebang. And I'm gonna have to get my hands on Book 4 ASAP. Let's have a brief interlude to talk about some things I didn't read for videos. All Her Little Secrets by Wanda and Morris. This was a Literally Dead book club pick. It follows this woman, Elise, who is a lawyer, and she is having an affair with her boss. She shows up to work early one day to meet him after a mysterious message he left her, and he's dead of an apparent suicide. So she starts to investigate, and stuff is happening with her company. She gets promoted weirdly, and there's also some stuff going on with her brother. And there are flashback chapters to her past when she was in, oh, it's got such a fun name, Chillicothe, that's what it's called. I did it on audiobook and I was so happy I did because like I wouldn't have said Chillicothe for that word. This book I enjoyed while I was reading it, but I feel like it's not really going to stick with me. Part of the problem is I guessed what was going on pretty early on, and so from that point you're just kind of waiting for confirmation or disconfirmation of what you thought. So you're not reading the book as much. It's also just got some tropes that I didn't enjoy. And this is mostly a legal thriller, which isn't really my thing. Fun experience, probably won't think about it again, giving it 3 stars. I also read In Case You Missed It by Lindsey Kelk. This is one that I've been working on for multiple weeks, and I ended up DNFing it at 66%. I wouldn't normally count a DNF toward my read, but I read more than half of it, and I got it. I just kind of skipped to the end and read the final chapter and the epilogue, and yeah, I think I was right to do that. Lindsey Kelk is someone that I read pre-booktube, I think in sort of a figuring out what I like kind of phase, and I wonder if she's just not for me anymore. First of all, the book was too long, for sure, and I never got a good sense of the characters. It is like a friendship dynamic at the core of it, but they just didn't sit quite right. I can't put my finger on what was wrong with it. It just didn't work. I should probably give you a synopsis, huh? This is about Roz, who is moving back to the UK from the States where she's been for the last couple of years, reconnecting with all of her old friends and her old boyfriend. There's other stuff going on. She's like a podcast producer working with the Skrillex of video games, basically. It's a weird time. I'm going to talk about spoilers just because I don't think you should read this, but if you want to, then just skip ahead a little bit. The biggest problem with this was that her boyfriend is abusive, manipulative, a bad dude. And she can't see it. Like, they hadn't even broken up at 66%, which was so frustrating because he is the most infuriating character to read. It is so obvious what's going on. I get it from the character's perspective, how you could be manipulated like this if it was a real life scenario, but it's not a fun thing to read. He was very subtle in his manipulation, like he would bail on her all the time and then like shower her with love after and apologize a bunch. None of her friends liked him and he sort of refused to make an effort with them and talk bad behind their back. Like, very subtle things, but constant. And it just wasn't fun to read. I'm giving it a 2-star because there definitely were things that I liked in it. I think if this had been handled differently, maybe edited differently, maybe done by a different author, I would have had a different experience. And it also feels bad to rate something 1 star when I didn't finish it, although when else are you gonna rate something 1 star? But sticking with the 2. And then I read The Night Shift by Alex Finlay. I really enjoyed his first book, which has a name. Everlast Fear is what it was called. And I think if you like his first book, you're gonna like this one. It is about, in New Year's 1999, there was a massacre at the local Blockbuster. 4 girls dead and 1 survivor, and now 20 years later a similar crime has happened. And trying to figure out if the guy that they thought did the original one, he's at large, so like, is he coming back? Was it someone else? All that kind of fun stuff. I really enjoy Alex Finlay's writing. In the multi-POV and multi-timeline, there's a lot of stuff going on. I do find them a little bit confusing and hard to parse out exactly what happened in retrospect, but the ride is great. I also just love the idea of everyone just being like, is this about Blockbuster? Just the small town feel of it was very fun. The POVs are also very disparate, and it's very fun to see how they eventually come together, what connects everybody. It features one of the characters from Everlast Fear, who is an FBI detective. So you do get that detective feel without it being the main drive of the story. And I don't know, I think it's a cute little nod to have all of your books connected in that way while it not being the main focus. It was a great time. I didn't see it coming. 5 stars, and I recommend. Then we can talk about the books that I read for my anniversary vlog That was such a fun video to film. Please go watch it if you haven't. It was a really fun time. It's long, but there are timestamps so you can jump around to whatever suits you. One of them being this edition of Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This I borrowed from a friend. It is still stressing me having it in my house, but by the time you see this video, it will be returned and all will be right with my soul. Six of Crows is an ensemble heist in the Grishaverse, and it's a fun time. I definitely get the appeal with it. I think that fantasy isn't one of my genres, so I struggled with that a bit, especially in the first third. And then the middle third is fine, and then the last third is really good. There's some really cool stuff that happens in the first third, so I end up feeling better about this book today than I did in that video. It's still a 4-star, like there are still things that I would change about it. It's a very long, but there's lots of really cool stuff that happens in here, really cool fights, cool heist stuff, and I really like the way that it wrapped up, and I will definitely be picking up the sequel. It feels vague for Six of Crows, but like, you know what Six of Crows is. No one is pitching Six of Crows anymore. I also read Everything I Never Told You by Celeste. This is such a good book. It's following a family living in Ohio in the 70s. They are an interracial couple with mixed kids, and it's just talking about their lives. The struggles that each of the characters have, how they bring that to the family dynamic, why these people can't just talk to each other. But it opens with Lydia is dead, but they don't know this yet. So the middle child dies, and how that ripples out and affects the family, what secrets come to light because of that. But you're also getting a past timeline with Lydia's perspective and everything leading up to her death, which you do get answered in here. I was definitely worried for a bit that we weren't going to get that answered. Do I wish I could go back to a time when I didn't know? Maybe. Just because this book wrecked me a little bit. There were a couple of tough days after I read this one. But it's just a really incredible story with these characters that are so real. And I don't want to make it sound like it's all doom and gloom. Like, you do get to see the happy moments in there, but how every member perceives them differently. I just think Celeste Ng is an incredible writer. She really gets what I want. She's got another book coming out this fall that I could not be more excited for. I read The Golden Couple by Greer, Hendricks, and Pekkanen and really enjoyed it. I know in the vlog I was waffling a little bit, but I have made my decision on this. It's definitely a 5-star. It was such a fun reading experience, and a lot of the issues that I had with it along the way make sense once you've finished it, which is so much fun in a thriller. This is following the Bishops, Marissa and Matthew, after Marissa has cheated. They go to couples counseling run by Avery, who is no longer a licensed therapist, so they have to agree to some unconventional rules, and like, because she doesn't have to follow the Hippocratic Oath, that's definitely not it, but she does some questionable things. But it's dual POV from Marissa and Avery, which is such a fun dynamic. There's so many twists and turns in here, definitely didn't see it coming. The final thing that I read for that vlog was Recitatif by Toni Morrison. This is my first Toni Morrison, and I think it's a good entry. It's not a bad entry, certainly. It's about these two women who are childhood friends growing up, intersecting in each other's lives. And one is white and one is black, but you don't know which character is which, though race plays an important part in their lives. It's an interesting idea, but it's not a book from my perspective. At that point, it's like an exercise that you can enjoy for the exercise, but less for the writing and the story. Though I think part of it is maybe I just didn't get it. I feel like maybe if this was something that I was able to study in an academic setting and get other people's perspectives on, maybe I would feel better about it. It does include an introduction by Zadie Smith, which is excellent and definitely enhanced the reading experience. And also like my comprehension of the text. There are still things that like bug me about it, but it's sticking in my brain, and I think that's the most important part. I did just want to mention for my TBR game, because I did switch up the prompts quite a bit One of them was I was looking for the sentence, she let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. I assumed that it would be in Six of Crows. It was not, but it did show up in 2 different books. This one, I think, almost verbatim. Marissa exhales the breath she didn't know she was holding. Yeah, so like, that's it. This one also had it, but a variation. Only if you want to. She meant it every time, but she did not realize she was holding her breath. Lydia did. Yes, she said, every time. And her mother would breathe again. So, different, but it's still in there. You just have to look for it. And I was definitely looking for it this month. Anyway, that's it for the April wrap-up. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions about the books that I read, please leave them down below. I would love to chat, and I will see you very soon in another video.